Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Harris County, Texas is likely the most diverse county in the country, if not the most diverse county in the country. However, its jury system doesn't look like the county. And what that means is in this era where we must put much interest into our justice system of all forms, we have to ask the question, why? Is it because of certain structures? Is it because it's being a jury is made too difficult? What is the reason? Well, this election cycle brought Marilyn Burgess as the Harris County District Clerk, and she saw the problem. Recently, she made quite a few changes within the system and went to the courts to get some assistance in ensuring that she could mitigate these problems, finding out what the issues were, and started a campaign known as the Stand for Justice campaign. And it's over the radio stations and social media, etc. She recently released a press release that said, jury service conditions in Harris County are improving significantly under the leadership of District Clerk Marilyn Burgess, as Commissioners Court passed Tuesday a proposal that will provide coffee, meal vouchers, and free parking to jurors. District Clerk Burgess is confident these measures will make the jury service experience more enjoyable, fulfilling one of her administration's principal goals. That's a very important thing to do, isn't it? Because if you can't park, if you can't get vouchers, etc., people of little means will likely not be able to serve on justice. Take a look at what one of the promotions that she's doing to try to talk to people about the changes that's occurring in the county to ensure that we have a more equitable jury system, a more diverse jury system.
Harris County needs your help. Over the past 5 years, our county's jury appearance rate has hovered around a disappointing 20%. Some areas in our county are as low as 10%. Lower appearance rates tend to correlate with less diverse panels, and less diverse panels disenfranchises many involved in the legal process. If you were accused of a crime or unjustly sued, would you rather have a jury that looks like something from our past, or one that's more representative and looks more like Harris County's present diverse population?
I am Marilyn Burgess, Harris County's District Clerk. If you receive a jury summons from my office, please answer your call to serve. We need your voice at the table. You could make the difference in a more just outcome.
These types of outreach make a difference. And it is good that right now in Harris County, there's a leader that's actually doing that. So let's go ahead and talk to her. Marilyn Burgess is the Harris County District Clerk. She is a CPA and former Chief Financial Officer for a local company. She was also Executive Director of the PTA. It is there that Ms. Burgess confirmed her calling as an advocate for causes that improve the lives of working and middle-class families, single mothers, and teachers. She subsequently served in other executive positions in various organizations. She is using her expertise now and her position as the Harris County District Clerk to bring fairness to our jury system by enhancing awareness and much, much more. Ms. Burgess, welcome to Politics Done Right, the head of our county district clerk. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Alberto. Great to be with you.
Look, first of all, I understand that when you got your position, there's one thing that you noticed about how voting was occurring. I mean, not voting, how our jury system was actually functioning. It wasn't representative of the community. Tell us, first of all, what did you see when you came into the county?
Well, when I first came into office, improving the juror experience, increasing appearance rates, increasing diversity of those that appear was a top priority of my office. And my office has been working on it diligently ever since January of 2019. I feel like we're finally making a little progress in that regard. Harris County being one of the most diverse counties in the nation, our juries need to reflect that diversity, and currently they do not. And so we have launched numerous measures to try to increase appearance rate, but particularly to target minority communities that are underrepresented in the numbers that appear currently.
Now, I think you appeared in front of the commissioner's court recently. There are a lot of things that you think can actually make it more appealing for those for other people to join the PM, because there are some real reasons why some people are not predisposed to serve on the jury. First of all, what are those reasons as you see it?
Well, in my opinion, the number one thing that keeps people from showing up to appear for jury duty is that there are a lot of people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have the benefit of being paid if they aren't at work. If they go to jury duty instead of going to work, they're not going to get paid for that day, and they simply cannot afford to show up. And so that's what we went to Commissioner's Court for initially, was to ask for a pay increase so that we could pay jurors enough that they could afford to miss that day of work and be there. And to me, that's the number one thing that's going to make an impact of getting the diversity that we need on our jurors. They were reluctant to implement anything in the middle of the pandemic because they didn't think we could track the kind of impact it had. We wouldn't know if people were showing up because the pandemic was lessening or if it was because of the pay. So they've committed to revisiting this when we get back to normal operations. But in the meantime, they agreed to put forward some benefits for jurors to make their experience a little bit more pleasant and to recognize that they're giving of their time and we appreciate them. So what we were able to get them to do was to provide free coffee for the first time in Harris County. When you go to jury duty, you get a free cup of coffee.
Wait, let me stop you a second there. Wouldn't you think that if you're a jury, you want to stay awake, right? And some of those proceedings can be boring. So, I mean, you want to have some coffee. Good job.
That's right. And we required you to be there by 8 o'clock in the morning. And if you live in Kingwood or Tomball or Pasadena, you have to leave pretty early to make sure you get parked and get inside and get seated before 8 o'clock. And I don't know about you, but I need that cup of morning to get me going. So that's something that was just something small that we should have been doing all along, and that now we are doing. The other big piece of it was that we never have paid jurors for their parking downtown. So you got paid $6 to show up and serve, but you had to pay for your own parking while you were down there. And if you were lucky enough to get in the right parking garage, it cost you $6. But if you went to the wrong parking garage, it could cost you $25 to park for the day. So now we do have, on a first come, first served basis, free parking for our jurors if you go to the right parking garage. And so we are in the process of painting that garage with an orange border around it so that we can tell you in your summons, look for the building with the orange border, and it's more easily identifiable. So you get into the right parking garage and then you get to park for free. So that was a big change too, that we're very excited about.
Now, did I see somewhere about a food voucher, or is that not implemented yet?
That has been implemented, and it's a temporary measure. Because currently with jury assembly out at NRG Arena, which we moved out there in order to be able to socially distance 6 feet apart and keep everybody safe, you do both jury assembly and voir dire at NRG Arena. Previously, when we were downtown, you did jury assembly in the Assembly Plaza, then you were moved out to go to a courtroom and you got breaks and you could go out in the area and get lunch or whatever during recesses. But now you have to stay in NRG until the voir dire process is completed, which may mean that you get there at 8 o'clock and you don't leave till 5 o'clock that afternoon. So, and there are very, very limited options of getting something to eat out at NRG. And so what we did was we implemented a process where you get a meal voucher. If you're still there after 11 a.m. in the morning, we'll give you a voucher that allows you to go to the concession stands and get a sandwich, some chips, and a drink.
Now, Ms. Burgess, all of that is wonderful. You're doing a great job as the Harris County District Clerk, but people have to know about this stuff. In other words, how are people, people are used to the old system where it actually cost them. In effect, our county was taxing people to serve on the jury. And now I think what you brought forth was a sort of equity in a system that allows everybody to participate. But you know what? probably there are not a lot of people that would have known about it, except that I believe you started doing some stuff about that, right?
We did. And we told Commissioners Court that none of this is going to have any impact. Even a pay increase, if we get that approved later on, won't have any impact if people don't know about it. And so we also asked them to fund a jury awareness campaign, which they have done. And we're trying to save the bulk of that when and if we get this jury pay increase approved. But we have launched a campaign to make people aware of why it's important to serve on a jury, why it's important to show up. And we're doing PSA ads on television stations. We've got a lot of social media presence. We're at a couple of different radio stations and some print media. We're targeting it into our lowest performing zip codes. We're targeting it to our minorities that are currently underrepresented. So we're targeting the Hispanic community and the African American community by going to places that we think that are where they will see these ads more frequently, and trying to talk about why it's important for you to show up, and hoping that that will have an impact and move that needle. In addition to that, we've also started our electronic pre-registration for jury duty. So when you get a summons in the mail, it tells you to go online and pre-register. And previously, you got a letter in the mail. It said, show up on this date, this time, this place, somewhere about 4 to 6 weeks in the future. And we just had to hope that you were organized enough to put it on your calendar and remember to show up. Now with this pre-registration process, when they pre-register, we get your email address, we get your cell phone number, and we're able to send you information via email when you pre-register, which is what we do, what to expect, where to go, what to bring, what not to bring. Bring a sweater because it can get cold. Wear socks because you're going to have to take your shoes off to get through security. And we can tell them where they go to park, and that you will be given a free cup of coffee, and that you won't have to pay for your parking if you get selected and go downtown to serve on a jury. So that information can be communicated to them. In addition to that communication, we also send them reminder notices a week prior to service. Remember, you have jury service coming up next week. And then the night before, we send both an email and a text message reminder. And what that has allowed us to do is, if we see we've got more people coming in than we're going to need, we can reschedule them or cancel their service. So you don't come down for us just to say, never mind, we don't need you after all. And that's what gives jury service such a bad name, is when you spend half a day, because you have to get up early, you have to travel downtown, you have to get in there, you go through the process, and then somewhere around 11 o'clock in the morning, they tell you, well, we don't need you, you're free to go. And then people go back to their communities and say, don't bother to go, it's a waste of time. So if we can get those numbers significantly reduced about who's there that's not needed, I think that'll have a big impact on our appearance rates as well. And we've been able to do that. We were dismissing about 37% before. 1 month, we got it down as low as 18%. And with time, we feel like we can get it down to as low as 12%.
Now, it seems like you're already measuring the metrics of the success of how you deal with people. Now, how are you going to measure the metrics of bringing in people that weren't there before? Have you instituted any type of policies to measure that?
Yes, that pre-registration allows us to capture a lot of demographic information as well. And so we can keep up with, of the people that are showing up, what ethnic group are they in? What age group are they in? What education status do they have? And we're monitoring those numbers. As I said, we've been underrepresented in African American and Hispanic communities. The Hispanic community has improved slightly with their representation rate since we've been out at NRG and started this process. African American community has slipped even a little bit further than it was before. But we have the mechanisms in place now to track it and see how we're doing, and see if these campaigns and these things do help us move the needle on that.
Now, once again, let's try to get this to the audience. Every week, well, I'll put that in my narrative at the end. But why is it that we want to make sure that you are successful in what you're doing as far as reaching out to the entire community to be a part of our jury system?
Criminal justice reform is a huge topic of conversation across the nation right now, and also right here in Harris County. And we're seeing change, and we want you to be a part of that change. And this is a way where you as an individual can have a direct impact on the outcome of somebody's life. If you're at the jury deliberation table, you're going to be in that decision-making process of what happens to that individual. And we have statistics have shown that when we have diverse juries, they deliberate longer than a homogeneous group of people would. They challenge unfair statements. They correct inaccuracies that are made. And what that leads to is fairer outcomes. And if you want to be a voice for change in criminal justice reform, be a juror at the deliberation table.
I mean, that is, I mean, you actually said something that I was going to add to, whereas if you have a diverse jury, we can all correct each other's preconceived notions or preconceived misconceptions. And that is actually very powerful in bringing justice to us all. So Ms. Burgess, usually I have one last question to every single interview, and that goes, what would you have liked me to ask you that for some reason in my infinite unwisdom, I didn't?
Well, the only thing I would like to add is the diversity that we're seeking is not just in ethnicity, it's in age groups as well. In the past, our juries have been predominantly older white people. And my experience in life and what I bring to the table is vastly different than someone who's 22 years old. So it's an age thing as well. We need to get younger people more involved. So it's not just the older people. And what we found out in this process is so many young people don't even check their mail. Everything's electronic nowadays.
Right.
They get all their bills electronic, and they're like, but I'm not expecting anything in the mail. I may not go to my mailbox for a month. Well, if you get a jury summons, that's how it's going to come. So it's very important that we get that message out there. Please check your mail at least once a week. Your mailing address is the only thing we have as that initial contact information. So check your mail, pre-register for jury service, and show up.
Well, you just opened another door. That was supposed to be the last question, but you opened the door. I'm sorry. You just said that for younger people, most of what you do is by mail. Are you going to try to institute something, let's say, with text messaging and email? Is that against code, or I don't know? I'm not,
Right now, our jury wheel is made up of people who have either registered to vote or have a Texas driver's license or a Texas ID. That's where we pull our pool from. And that database does not include anything other than mailing address. So we have no way to reach you other than through the mail.
Harris County District Clerk Marilyn Burgess, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. I mean, that work that you are doing with the jury system is long overdue. Thank you so kindly for really making our system look like what Houston looks like.
Thank you so much for having me. And if your listeners believe in what we're doing, reach out to your county commissioner and tell them they need to approve that jury pay increase.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.